That's Katie, and of course, that makes this the Circles and Squares news report for Monday, June 27th, 2022. And it's a special episode because this is the first time in a long time that we're recording in the same room. And you know what? We've been doing it separate for so long, it's really weird to be like face to face, looking directly into your eyeballs while talking.
I know. I've noticed turns out I think I'm a very vain person, because when I'm recording and I'm watching like the cameras going over or streaming, I look at myself a lot more, and it's I don't know, I'd like to think it's just to make sure I'm not like doing anything weird, and but like I don't know, looking at you is weird.
It's funny because like I think we're so used to now recording and not being nervous about it, but this is like the weirdest thing we've done in a long time. But it's going to be cool. It's really fun. And happy belated birthday to everyone. It was Kate's birthday.
Belated birthday to everyone. Well, to anyone who's had a birthday recently. Belated. So not if it's your birthday today, fuck off. It was your birthday yesterday.
That's right. We just went and had some delicious Korean barbecue for dinner, and now we're back and recording in the same spot with a lovely news show for everyone. So, of course, we're going to talk about the PlayStation news of the last couple of weeks to start off. And then we'll get into the out-of-town news after that, which is largely going to be the Xbox and Bethesda show highlights that we did not get to talk about last time. And then we'll close out the show with an interesting musical number from our friends at 21 Pilots. So look forward to that at the end of the show. But for now, I guess we'll start off with the PlayStation news. Just at the top as well, I want to say that if this episode sounds weird at all, it's because we are using a different setup. Sadly, we don't have video content today for those of you watching on YouTube, but it'll be a good show nonetheless. So let's start it off with something really exciting here, which is that there has been some leaks about God of War Ragnarok coming from, I guess, a well-known leaker online known as The Snitch, who recently predicted some stuff about Overwatch 2 coming out being free to play on PS4, PS5. And so there's some credibility to this. But basically what he is saying is that the industry is expecting God of War Ragnarok to come out and be announced for maybe a direct on June 30th because there's some number that he saw online, and there's a binary as 1110, which is 30th, I guess number 30, which is June 30th, which lends some credence to Sony's also held state of plays historically on Thursdays, which June 30th is a Thursday. So this could be the date where we finally get to see Ragnarok for the, I guess, not first time, but first time in a long time. I
mean, kind of first time, right? We got the title drop, which was really hype at the time, right? But I wouldn't say that really showed us a hell of a lot. But yeah, it's cool. I've heard online. I didn't actually see the tweet myself, but I did see apparently Corey was kind of like tweeting some cheeky stuff about the links and just kind of being a little bit coy, like, oh, I don't know, we'll wait and see. But of course, that makes people even a little bit more like assuming that this is indeed going to be accurate, because you know it kind of seems like he might be playing along a little bit.
Mm-hmm. He was posting some cheeky stuff too, like he posted this weird Batman meme or something, and it's just like, you know, it's just like he's fueling that intrigue that people have.
Exactly. And if you were him and you knew that June 30th was a red herring and this is actually false, maybe you wouldn't want to hype it up too much, you know, and get people disappointed.
It's true, but then again, you got to think too, this is also people just wanting to shred apart any, you know, Cory Barlog could tweet anything and people would instantly be like, oh, what does this mean for God of War?
That is very, very true. But you know, he seems like the kind of guy that would sort of get in on the jokes a little bit, so.
Mm-hmm. And this is interesting too, because if you remember a couple weeks ago, there was the Bloomberg report where it was reported originally that the game had been delayed to 2023, and then that was debunked and people were saying, no, it is apparently on track. So there's been like talk about Ragnarok before this even happened. And so I feel like now this is just like more, like we got to be getting something, you know?
Yeah. So I guess then it's state of play, which makes sense because we had the PlayStation Showcase recently and obviously there was no Ragnarok. But we talked about it, we said it was likely going to get its own thing. So we get at the end of the June, it's possible Ragnarok comes out like December, like Christmas time potentially.
I think November was the day that's been kind of pigeonholed for it, because I don't think a lot of big things are released in December either. It's usually like November for so people can do their Christmas shopping early. And... yeah,
I guess early December at the latest is what you want. But yeah, releasing December 30th is not always in your best interest.
It's interesting though. I wonder if we'll see anything about it, because if it's not a state of play, if this ends up being false, the other thing where it could be is get Jeff Keighley's end of summer, whatever, because there's usually the
Game Awards.
the Game Awards,
the
right?
End of the year, yeah.
Yeah, because Game Awards is the other big thing, but I wonder if that would be too late because that's definitely later than June 30th.
Yeah. Do you think the Game Awards would be kind of cool just because God of War 2018 won?
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Or did it win a Game of the Year? It did, right?
It did, yeah. It swept a lot of awards.
Yeah, you're right. It did the 2018. I was thinking Sekiro beat it up, but Sekiro was 2019, which was the following. So yeah, God of War won, so releasing like a trailer at the Game Awards will be kind of cute as like a legacy sort of thing, but PlayStation seems like they want to use their big stuff on their own. Yeah. At their own time. So.
I think so. But anyway, we will definitely keep up with this. Ragnarok, of course, is front and center of a lot of what we talk about on the show, especially when it comes out. And especially if they do that State of Play, if that comes out on the 30th, we will be doing a bonus episode.
And especially if they mention it's going to come to their PlayStation Extras day one, that would be nuts.
Could you imagine? That would get a lot of subscribers, that's for sure. One place that it won't be announced, though, I can almost assure you, is Gamescom, because our second story today is that PlayStation is to skip Gamescom 2022. Gamescom, of course, is another sort of gaming convention that goes on during the summer, along with the summer showcase stuff and all of that. But it takes place in Germany, and so it doesn't get quite as much publicity, I guess, as you could say, as some of the other stuff. But apparently, Sony is listed as not going to be going to Gamescom. Joining a lot of companies that aren't going as well. Nintendo's not going. Take-Two, Activision Blizzard, all already have announced they're not going. Microsoft, I think, is kind of in the same boat. But I think PlayStation now, this is just more evidence of, like, they really just want to do their own thing. Like, whenever they announce their stuff, it seems like it's just going to be their state of plays. And maybe, like we saw Last of Us at the summer opening night live, like the things here and there on other shows. But overall, it just seems like they're really shutting themselves off, just like Nintendo a lot of the time with the directs.
Yeah, that seems to be like the trend that companies are taking, and maybe it's I don't know, maybe it just makes more sense. Like, it's less lucrative for them to show up to shows and they can just do their own thing. But I mean, it was like, it started, I guess, the trend with E3 a few years back when people started backing out of that and doing their own thing, and it's just kind of continuing to trend that way.
I think it's just the whole COVID thing, right? Like, why bother spending money to have a time slot at a big thing when you can just do your own event and control the news for that one day? Like, everyone talks about just your news if you do your event, whereas if you do it at Gamescom, your headlines are all mixed in with everything else that's announced, and you just don't get to control it the same way.
Yeah, exactly. And now they've had that time to, actually like test it out, whether that was, kind of self-imposed a little bit with how things were shut down, but they know that it works, and yeah, like you said, why bother?
Yeah. So we will be watching Gamescom. We'll probably talk about stuff that gets announced there as it goes on, but again, don't expect don't expect Ragnarok there, at least. That's all the PlayStation stuff we have for this week. It's a pretty minimal PlayStation news week, I guess. So let's move into something that's a bit bigger. And this is, of course, the Xbox and Bethesda Games Showcase that happened, well, a little while ago now, but our recording schedule just was not lending itself well to this. But this was, alongside the State of Play at the start of Summer Games Fest, I would say that those two were the pillars, like the best two shows that were there. And I mean, there was a lot of stuff shown at this show, and I guess we'll just go over what was announced and talk about what we thought. Started off the show with Redfall, a game we didn't really know a lot about, and it seemed like it was like, is this Left 4 Dead but with zombies or vampires or whatever? And apparently you can play the single player, and I thought that the gameplay for Redfall looked really cool. Like, there was the characters, they all seemed to have really distinct kind of kits. There was that one support character who's like got that elevator and she like lifts people into the air. I thought that was awesome, and there could be so much fun with team synergy and like using those abilities in a way where, if I'm thinking about Borderlands or something, like the characters don't synergize, you kind of just do your own thing and everyone's just a killing machine. But this to me seemed a bit more like you really have to kind of work together, at least with that one character. Yeah,
this to me is the kind of game where it's probably a hell of a lot of fun to sit down and play with some friends, which, to be fair, is what I say about a lot of multiplayer games, and then go like, sure. I'm not going to play it. But I think you're right, it looks like the characters are all like, diverse enough that you do have a lot of like strategy that you can play around with. The one thing I will say is I think we've seen Redfall before, just as another cinematic trailer. This one had some gameplay. But they really upped, to me for this one, they really upped the like banter and the all these characters are so quirky. Yeah. And it was just one of those ones where I always have to smile because they're trying to do the banter between like, what you and your buddies would be saying while you're playing. It's like no one would ever talk like that. Like it's just so reminds me of like if my parents were to try to have to like write the script for Redfall, that's what they'd write. It's so like out of touch.
Yeah, the elevator thing, and she's like, "Oh, going up." Like,
yeah,
no one would say that. Yeah.
It's just so.
Could you imagine being on the mic with your friends and like saying that to them as you do it? Like,
I mean, that is the kind of thing I'd say, but then we'd all laugh about it. It wouldn't be just like going up and be like, "Yeah."
It wouldn't be perceived as cool. It would be like, "Wow, that was lame."
Yeah, and like nobody ever says like, "Oh, you got one on your 10 o'clock." like nobody says that.
True. Yeah.
So I think this game looks great, but it's just I couldn't help but kind of just take the piss out of it a little bit.
No, exactly. After that, Hollow Knight Silksong Kate finally makes an appearance. No release date, unfortunately, but they said at the top of the show, and I thought this was interesting. They said everything in this showcase should be released within the next 12 months. So although there wasn't a date, we know it's coming, and I really like that too because Xbox is so notorious for like showing games, but they never have a release date, or they're so amorphous and never will come out. And I like this because it's like, no, these games are going to be shown like within the next calendar year. You will play almost all these on Game Pass, and I thought that was a really like I saw some people online saying they didn't like that, but for me it was like that's the opposite of what Xbox usually does, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, and that's what I'm looking for when I watch these showcases in general as well, right? Like I want to know what's coming out the next year. I don't want to see a trailer for a game that's coming out in 3 years that I'm just going to forget about, or the game is going to be so different by the time it's released that yeah,
or like a Ragnarok situation where you just see the logo and then all of a sudden like all we can do now is speculate and become obsessed with all these rumors about it.
Yeah,
when it's like, what is that really contributing?
Exactly. I'd rather something concrete and not like the speculation that ends up like building it up and then it's not what people think and then they're upset and there's all this drama over a game of like they shouldn't have had that expectations in the first place necessarily, right?
So all that aside, then Hollow Knight Silksong, you're a Hollow Knight fanatic, obviously. What did you think of what you saw?
I am so stoked. So we have actually seen Silksong gameplay, which is outrageous. Back, I think it was like 3 years ago, we saw like,
sounds about right.
It sounds about right. We saw like a small bit of gameplay, and then people are thinking like, "Oh, it's got to be out soon. There's gameplay." No, but it looks very, very no. If only we'd known. But it looks quite similar to that, and like this is everything I could ever dream for a Hollow Knight sequel. Like it looks fucking incredible. Like the art, the environments, the way that Hornet moves, like she's so fast, and like it just screams Hollow Knight 2, but like with a good spin on it because Hornet's quite a different character than the Knight was. You know, just watching it, like I've played enough Hollow Knight to know like the feel of the game and whatnot. It just looks like this game is a little like way more acrobatic. Like she's kind of looks like she bounces off the characters a lot more and kind of spends time in the air and has a few more mobile, like she's kind of wall jumping at one point. And it just looks a little bit more involved platform wise. And for me, like these style of games, like I tend to gravitate more towards the platforming. I think you may be more towards the combat. And this game really looks as though it might really hit both of those really well. Yeah, I agree. I think Hornet's just got a little bit more in her kit than the Knight has, and it's a good way to transition, and you're not just like starting over as the Knight and you gotta re-get your power-ups. Like she just has other stuff she's doing. But it looks like there's some cool systems with using different kind of threads, which gives you different moves, and like it just like I'm so excited that it's real. I'm so excited it's coming out. Like this is I own Game Pass for Silksong. Yeah, 100%. Right. And you'll have it pre-installed. Oh man, I bet you this is the thing though, because we didn't get a release date. You know, the next time there's any type of thing coming out for this game, it has to tell you when it's coming out. Absolutely. And I really wouldn't be surprised if it's Shadow Drop. Now that people are talking about it again and it's kind of been shown again, I wouldn't be surprised if 1, 2, 3 months, whatever it is from now, they're just like, hey, we're going to show you something tomorrow. And then they show you something and it's like out now. Oh my God. I think that's what it's going to be. I hope that happens because I don't want to be like this would be another Elden Ring situation for me where like I've got a countdown on my phone. I'm going to take the day off. I'd rather it just get shadow dropped and it's like, oh shit, I'm playing Silksong today versus the like lead up that seems to take forever. I just think the shadow drop makes so much sense too because of Game Pass. Like, yeah, because it's not like you need to go. Well, I mean, not everyone's going to play it on Game Pass, but it was shown here. And most of the people on Xbox are not going to be budgeting to buy it because you just know you're going to just download it when it comes out. Exactly. So that's great. Let's hope we see it soon. After that, we saw High on Life, which is a game from the creators of Rick and Morty, and it had those sentient guns that would like talk to you as you go around. It seems like one of those internet humor kind of things. Rick and Morty, obviously, so popular. I don't think this is one really for either of us, but it looked legitimately like kind of interesting the way it was presented. Similar to that, after this, we had the Riot Games announcement.
There's a bunch of Riot games heading to Game Pass, including League of Legends Wild Rift, Runeterra, Teamfight Tactics, Valorant. You liked League, Kate. Is this anything for you? Like, does it make a difference if this is on Game Pass or not?
See, this is weird because League is already free.
That's what I didn't understand. Like,
so
what is it?
I think it's gonna come with like champions unlock. So in League of Legends, you have to like buy the champions. You can do that with in-game currency, or you can spend real currency to make it quicker. And then it's got the like, the standard like free champs every week that rotate, so you can try stuff out and then you buy it. So I think coming to Game Pass, it comes with champions unlocked. So you do get benefits of playing it here over playing it in the League client. If you're a new player, I would be interested to see what if they're gonna incentivize people who like just have an account they've been playing on for years to go through Game Pass. But like, it just seems like a weird offering because like you don't. It's free.
I know, that's what I thought too. But I mean, obviously Riot's a huge company, and it's interesting.
Yes.
Like, I'm interested to see that too, because I think that's we talk a lot about PlayStation, obviously, but that's such an Xbox move, I feel, just because Xbox is so much more tied to PC. Like, these games won't be, I don't know how popular they'll be on console if they come to console, but with Game Pass PC, like, I could see a lot of people just being like, I think it's even less about getting people to like pay any money for those games and more about if you're playing it through Game Pass, then all of a sudden you're getting exposed to the whole Xbox marketplace and everything. And people there's so many people that just play League. Like, I don't play games, I play League. And now all of a sudden those people are going to be maybe entering through the Xbox client and then wanting to spend money there. And
maybe it's good. This is kind of like a therapy for League players. Like, go on the Game Pass, see what other games there could be, and then maybe end up playing like a nice wholesome, you play like Unpacking. And then you think to yourself as you're unpacking this nice room and you're having this heartfelt emotional gaming moment you didn't know you could have because you only ever played League. And then you think to yourself, like, you know what, maybe next time I log on League, I'm not going to tell someone to kill themselves. Like, and like, it's kind of like a therapy for people.
God, so, I hope so.
Come on, League players, get on Game Pass. Do something different.
So after the Riot rock block of news, we had another Kate game, A Plague Tale Requiem was shown, also coming to Game Pass. This is the follow-up, of course, to a game we played. I think it was last year, right? We played Plague Tale?
Plague Tale Innocence.
And I think it was, it was a good game. We both liked it. You liked it more than me, but obviously... it's a highly anticipated sequel for a lot of people, and it seems like it's got another, like, it's a really cool extension of what was already in the first game. Yeah,
so we see, our protagonists, I think they are the same characters, but it's in, like, a different part of France now, so they're continuing on their journey together. I am so excited. Like, I already had the biggest smile on my face from Silk Song, and I was like, summer's over, we did it, like, everything else is just confetti. And then this came up, and I was like, holy shit, and every time I think about Plague Tale, I like it more than the time I thought about it before. Like, this game is just exponential. It just consistently is raising in my mind. And, like, it is so incredibly pretty, these Plague Tale games. And, like, I'm so excited to see what Amicia and Hugo get up to next.
After that, Forza Motorsport showed up. And this was more car stuff, right? Like, it is what it is. Forza, of course, I really enjoyed. But this is just more of that for those people interested in Forza. And then, of course, we followed up with Flight Simulator, which is coming out, and I believe it had the Halo, what's it called? What's the ship from Halo called? It's called the Halo. People are gonna kill me for not knowing.
Is it the Halo?
I think it's called a Pelican.
Okay,
the plane that they drive in. Yeah. So I think you can drive that in Flight Simulator, and they're also introducing helicopters, which, I mean, that's pretty cool.
That's cool.
That's really cool. And so I would love to try one day with like the whole flight stick setup. I have this weird thing where that sounds really fun, but it's just like I'm never gonna get to try it. Those are so expensive.
They are cool though.
And all that. So after that, Overwatch 2 comes out, gets its trailer. They're really pushing Overwatch 2, and I still am like, I don't really understand what this is, because they already said like the multiplayer is gonna be across both versions or whatever. And I know they're making some changes too about like having 5-on-5 instead of 6-on-6 or something, but I don't know if you're up on the Overwatch these days.
I'm not as up as I would be. I've seen a lot of people having controversial opinions about it online, and I don't know enough to really weigh in on either side. But I think a lot of people were upset because it's now like they're closing the servers for Overwatch 1, and so people were like concerned that like this means that like Overwatch 1's done, and like, oh, I'm forced to play Overwatch 2, that sucks. But I thought the multiplayer was supposed to carry over. Well, I think what they're doing now is it's just kind of like they're trying to treat it more just like a big update. I think is what the last thing I've seen, or at least what people who are like Overwatch 2 supporters are saying. It's like, well, yeah, you can't play like, 3 patches ago of Overwatch 1. You're just playing this new one, which is technically Overwatch 2 now. So,
but it makes sense because it's going free to play, right? So I feel like if it wasn't going free to play, that would really burn a lot of people because they'd just be like, oh, my Overwatch 1's useless now. But where if it's free to play, at least it's like, well, it's an upgrade. It's more of just like, it doesn't even have to be Overwatch 2. It's just...
Exactly. It could be Overwatch like patch 37, but 37 is really big. So I don't know, like there's probably more to it, I'm sure. And I don't know exactly how progression will carry over. But as someone who's not like invested in Overwatch anymore, I think it looks pretty cool. Like some of the new characters look neat. Like there's that one character they showed in the trailer, which was like very, very Borderlands inspired, who looks pretty cool. And I mean, if it's free to play, like I might check it out.
Oh, I would too. I mean, it's gonna be on Game Pass. It's gonna be free on PlayStation. Like Overwatch was a lot of fun when it first came out, and I would love to jump back in. Who knows how long I'll stay? Because the second all the pros come in and you're getting like owned and you're trying to have fun, I'm out. But Overwatch is cool. So after that, we saw a game called Ara: History Untold, which is kind of in the vein of Civilization and those kind of 4X style games. It was a cool trailer. Like it kind of took you through some different time periods, and there was this girl, and she kept looking different, right? At
depending on like where she was in history. Yeah, which it was a cool trailer.
I thought that's exactly what I thought. Like cool trailer. I'm not gonna play it. After that, we got some Elder Scrolls Online updates for something called the High Isle. I have no idea what that is, but power to you.
I think it's one of the areas. Like Skyrim's an area, and like Morrowind is an area, and so I think High Isles is one of the areas that like the mainline games haven't been to, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, fair enough. Another game I don't know anything about, Fallout 76 was shown after that with a new expansion called the Expeditions: The Pit. I think there was some rumors, or at least according to this article that we're going through from Keen Gamer, that Fallout 5 might have been revealed, but I mean, come on, it wasn't. It's just Fallout 76, an update, and I mean, I'm interested to see like how many more updates are they going to give this game, because as far as I understood, people really didn't jive with it.
People didn't like it, but like that's so common for these like online service games now. Like look at No Man's Sky's glow up, right? Like people like that was like the most dunked on game ever when it came out, and for very valid reasons. But now it's like a critically acclaimed, like, wonderful game that everybody's like encouraging others to play. So like, maybe Fallout 76 can have a similar glow up.
It's possible. It really is, especially with, they have so much money to spend on these games. Yeah. It's not a question of if they can glow it up. It just depends if they want to continue to try or just put things towards the next game, I guess. So after that, we had another Forza break back from the first one, but this one was a Forza Horizon 5 Hot Wheels DLC. And I know they've done Hot Wheels before, but this is the first time I've seen it since I've sort of been a casual Forza player and had Game Pass. And I gotta say, the more I've thought about this looks hella fun. Like going around all the loop-de-loops and having like those crazy plastic tracks going through the world. Like it looks really cool. It looks
super cool. Now, with your more Forza knowledge than me, does it have a like map creation
That's
option?
A good question.
Because I think that's so obvious for something like this, right? Is like you just build your own like stupid track with 6 loop-de-loops in a row, and like why not?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Forza itself doesn't have, to my knowledge, like you can't make your own races in Forza 5. But what you can do is you can kind of customize some of the conditions of the event and kind of post them online. So I don't know if maybe you could do some slight tweaks, but I don't think they're gonna have like a full builder mode. Okay. But I could be wrong, and I hope they do, because that would be sweet.
I feel like it just fits in so well. But yeah, this is cool. Like I'm never excited in car games, but this came on and me and my buddies were like, yo, hang on.
Yeah, this is getting me going a little bit. Ooh. After that, we saw our friend Vin Diesel pop up in Ark 2. This is a survival game, and I mean, to be honest, whenever this comes up, I'm just like, this just looks like they're trying to make Horizon with Vin Diesel.
Every time I see this, I think it's Avatar.
I always think it's that game Evolve, where it's like the 4v1 like dinosaur hunting game.
Yeah, that was
because it kind of looks like that. And there was that other game too, which we saw a long time ago, and it was kind of like you play as different species, and then as you like live your life, you evolve into more powerful ones or whatever. Do you remember that? It was like a demo.
That sounds cool though.
It was like you were like a, I don't know, like a hunter. I mean, this is so vague. You can tell. Worst description ever on a podcast. Either way, I mean, we're not going to play Ark, but
That's
power
funny.
to you, Vin Diesel.
Okay, were there ever rumors that this was an Avatar game though?
No, but there is an Avatar game.
There is an Avatar game?
Yeah,
okay,
there is an Avatar
maybe I'm
game.
just like conflating the two in my mind because every time I'm like, oh, it's Avatar. Vin Diesel wasn't an Avatar. That's weird. And then it's like just some other weird fantasy
No,
game.
you're not wrong. There's just two.
Okay,
There's just two.
Okay.
So after Ark, we had Scorn that was shown. It was another horror game in the summer of 2022, which is just horror summer.
And space.
And horror space summer.
Yeah.
What did you think of Scorn, Kate?
I thought it looked pretty cool. Apparently this game was like announced in 2014. So like this is an older horror game, but it looked pretty good. I don't know if there's anything that like necessarily stuck out about it, or at least like I'm more into the new like Calypso protocol and like that kind of stuff overshadowed it. But like it's a horror game coming to Game Pass, and me and my friends are 100% going to start it at some point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was some weird like body stuff going on, you know, like there's like some guy pulling something out of his stomach, and I mean a lot of blood on his hands.
It was a really like gory one, I would say. Like it was a little bit like a lot of body, like very moist is the word I would use to describe this trailer.
Very moist, yeah.
Very moist.
So after that we had Flintlock, which is a Bethesda game. Yeah, I can't remember this one. I'm gonna look at the trailer. Kate, do you remember what this was?
Yeah, this game actually looked cool, pretty fucking cool. So this game I think has the potential to be like a little bit, it depends on how it feels. It's an action game. The setting looks super neat, kind of like a fantasy sort of setting, but not your traditional high fantasy. And you swap between like melee, and you have this like flintlock guns. I think there was some magic as well, and it just kind of looks like a very spectacle action RPG. So I think if the stuff feels like a good weight and there's like a decent combat system in it, I'm actually really excited about this. But there is a small concern that it's just kind of a little bit like Devil May Cry sort of style, which like those games are great, but they're not usually what I like.
Right, they're more like the popcorn action kind of like, you know, cool combos and high score multipliers.
Exactly. So like some of those spectacle games are just a little bit like, I don't like the feel of them as much, but this looks like it could kind of maybe be like balanced between the two. So I've actually got my eye on Flintlock.
Fair enough. Well, you know, that's the beauty of Game Pass, Kate. You could just try it out, and if you don't like it, well, kick it to the curb.
Exactly.
After that, Minecraft Legends came out. It's another spin-off of Minecraft. This one is truly described as, quote, a true next generation block game, is what they say here. They say here in the press release. So this one is like a Minecraft, I think it's an RPG, right? Mm-hmm. Which is a kind of a cool concept. I feel like Minecraft has just really become its own, obviously, like its own platform, almost similar to like League, where people just play Minecraft and there's these different offshoots of Minecraft. And I mean, it's just living way longer than you ever thought it would, but it's cool, and power to you on that. After that, Lightyear Frontier, A Fresh Start, which is a base building game based off of, I guess, it's kind of like Stardew Valley a little bit. Looked kind of cute and very vibrant and bright, which is something that I really appreciated, just because, especially like back to back with Minecraft and like the Hot Wheels RC stuff, there's been so much horror and like space. I just appreciated seeing some bright colors come into this show and like cheer me up and remember me that games can be like not full of blood and stuff sometimes.
Blood?
You know?
Yes.
There's like the vampires and stuff at the start too. Like this is just really playful looking.
The wholesome intermission.
Yeah, and there's like a giant mech they're riding at some point too. Like, again, base building. We went through a lot of base building ordeals on this show recently.
Yeah, you know, this is not a game I'm picking up, but if I had to live in one of these games not as like a hero, but just as myself, you know, maybe this nice little Stardew Valley town is not a bad choice.
That's right. So after that, we had Gunfire Reborn, which is a first-person roguelite coming to Game Pass, and it is a co-op shooter, which I think looked pretty fun. I think it's a great example of a Game Pass game where it's like, you know what, this will be fun to play. Would I want to spend a lot of money? Probably not. But what really stands out to me for this one is like the creatures and the characters are cool. Like they're kind of cartoony in a way that you just don't really see for a lot of these games. Like whenever you see these shooter games, it's always like demons or like zombies or like military dudes or something. Whereas these are like cool cartoon characters, almost out of like Yu-Gi-Oh or something like that.
So you know what this actually art style reminds me of, and it's gonna be a weird comparison, but I think it's true. So it's like, okay, remember Biomutant that came out, right? So if Biomutant's like the anime, Gunfire Reborn is the manga.
Yeah.
But yeah, apparently this is pretty good. I knew a couple friends who played it on Steam and quite liked it. Just, it's a neat concept, right? It's a roguelike, but it's also co-op, which those typically very much tend to be single player, or at least like couch co-op at most.
Yeah.
But this is like fully online, so apparently it's pretty fun.
So after that, we're back in the darkness, folks. We're back into Lovecraft horror. But that's okay, because we're talking about The Last Case of Benedict Fox, which I think looks like an awesome kind of Lovecraftian murder mystery, creepy environments. Like, it's very noir. I think this just looks very fascinating, like the way it's got some platforming built into it. It reminds me a lot of like Little Horror, or what's it called?
Little Nightmares.
Like, not in the way that it's maybe Little Nightmares is kind of 2.5, kind of 3D, and more about like sneaking around. This has some combat and stuff, but just sort of the vibe of the game sort of has that feeling to me. And there's some playing around with light and like the flashlights, and it just looks interesting. Like that setting just sounds very appealing.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's also a side scroller, I think is cool.
Yeah, you throw out anything Lovecraft inspired to me that looks half decent, and it's like a mousetrap. You just got the cheese on there, and I'm in it 100% of the time. Like, I've learned that not only is that one of my favorite, it's my favorite setting. Like, I just can't get over it. Like, I was thinking about the other day, I booked actually my second tattoo I'm getting, and I've got a Bloodborne one, and the second tattoo comes inspired partially from Arkham Horror, which is a board game me and my friends play. And it's like, both of those things are just based off Lovecraft, so I'm just secretly like amassing this like full body Lovecraft art. And you know what, like, I'm just such a sucker for it. It's so cool, the Eldritch Unknown. Like, fuck, I'll play this game. I didn't even think the gameplay looked like anything outrageous, but like, just the setting enough, I'm in.
So what you're saying is you're gonna end up getting a Benedict Fox tattoo after you play this game, probably.
Yeah, it's good enough. You know what, it's a pretty cool like little symbol they've got going on with the guy and the tentacles eating him up. Like, agreed. That's kind of maybe weird to get on my leg, but but I might
just get the name Benedict Fox tattooed on your leg.
Fox. Maybe I'll just get a little fox, and then I'll always know.
It's perfect. After this, we had an interesting game called As Dusk Falls. This is a game I believe we had seen before, but it's another one along the lines of the Supermassive, like, or is it Supermassive? Yeah, the Until Dawn and all those that are kind of like the multiple character narratives where you can play co-op if you want. But it's kind of a story. It seems more grounded overall than some of the other stories we have here. Not as supernatural. Like, some people are on a road trip and like their car breaks down, and I'm sure there's some obviously, intriguing stuff that happens. But it seems more of like a real life story overall than we've seen before. And I really think, like, I'm interested in this. I already have it pre-installed on my Xbox. It comes out on July 9th, but I got it pre-installed. I'm excited. And you know what else I really like about this is they have these kind of cutscenes, and I hope it's not just for the trailer, but they're sort of those still images that
like
move,
stop motion or
like
something,
stop motion. And I just love when games do that, because I think it's a good way to still tell a story. But obviously, if it's a smaller budget thing, they're not using all their time to animate these cutscenes, which I remember I played that Last Stop game earlier in the year, and I just thought like that game had all these cutscenes too, and it just didn't have the same level of like choice and like variability that some of these other games would have. So I hope that this game is more like, hey, let's tone it down on that sort of animation and instead really flesh out the ideas that can happen with your characters and where they can go.
Yeah, and you can use those limitations in a smart way, right? Like, it having those kind of stop motions might have started out, or could have potentially started out as like a budgeting thing, but then it turns out to be like a unique kind of artistic draw to the game, right? Because it's different. And so sometimes those limitations end up making like the most interesting part of a game, because they've got to be creative and problem solve. And this game looks awesome. Like, I've been really getting into that, like, I don't know, like that narrative, whatever you want to call them. Like, I always just call them Telltale.
It's the Telltale game, right?
Yeah,
it's the Telltale game.
They call them Telltale games, but like, they're visual novels, but I think they're different visual novels in like a lot of like single player focused games. So they're kind of, there's that distinction there. But like, after playing Detroit Become Human and like some other stuff in that kind of genre, like, they're really increasing on my list of like what are the best games to play co-op, because like, you've got limited time to make choices, and you're like, quickly debating with someone like, oh, do the square option, and there's that tension, and it's just so cool to see how the story unfolds with a buddy who like maybe would pick something different than what you would normally pick. So it kind of leads to more interesting scenarios than you just always picking like you know the nicest possible option or whatever.
Yeah, and I just really like the way that they seem to be like there's fewer and fewer of these games coming out where people would say like, oh, the choices don't seem to make a big difference. Whenever they seem to have like, especially these ones where you're controlling multiple characters and it can be co-op, it really seems like there's more and more agency being put into how you can actually affect the outcomes, which I hope is the case for this one. We'll wait and see. So after that, we had Naraka Blade Point, which is, I guess it came out on PC last year, so this isn't necessarily a new game, but it actually came out yesterday, 2 days ago as of the time of recording. This is a 60-person PvP kind of combat game with some insane move animations going on. It's got some really like kind of mythical sort of Japanese style characters. I assume it's kind of like a battle royale. Probably not going to be my thing, but I mean, this type of stuff is just really popular, and it's the kind of thing when if you'd never heard of it before, but if you went on Steam, it's like, oh, this is number 15 on the charts, you know?
100%.
That's kind of what this looks like to me, but it's cool. It's coming to Game Pass. After that, we had a game. I think this is one of the ones we can kind of have our handshake on and say we're both excited to play, and this is Pentiment, which is a narrative-driven game from the medieval era, and it's coming from Obsidian, which is interesting. They obviously release a lot of really big games, and this one looks to be like a small sort of side project, kind of choose your own adventure style as well, but it's got a really unique kind of art style, and the medieval era is always cool to visit. I'm excited to check this one out. Oh, there we go. We got some noise from the trailer coming in live, everybody. It's got a really cool art style just while you do that. Like the characters, they look like they're almost cut out of a newspaper and kind of watercolored in. And there's like pages that flip in the game. Like the whole thing is kind of made of this paper aesthetic, and like the characters are kind of like a collage paper or something like that. It looks awesome. It
reminds me a lot of like old fairy tale storybooks. Is what the art reminds me of. And yeah, it's cool. Like it's just another one of those visual, like this one to me seems like, now this is what I mean by like the visual novel where you play single player. Like this seems to me like less like, you know, like more a little bit larger scope than just the characters. It's almost more like seems like you're running, not gonna run a kingdom, but you're gonna influence a whole town instead of like one character's specifics journey. So like I don't know what the distinction of that in my mind is, but this is like a a single player narrative game. The other one was a multiplayer. Yeah,
and this game's not just narrative as well. I think it has some light puzzle elements. Like just watching the trailer, there's sort of this one section where there's a wheel with maybe like a cipher and some fill in the blank type of letter stuff. Like it seems like it's got a bit more than just choices, which I like when they kind of include those type of puzzles in the games too. So I'm excited to play that one. I'm sure we'll talk about that on the show at some point. So moving along after that, we had an update to Grounded, which is, that game came out pretty much right alongside the new console releases, and I think people liked it for what it was at the start, but I never really tried it. I don't know. It seems like just a survival kind of thing online. The concept of being like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids is interesting.
Yeah, the coolest thing about this game to me, and like the one draw that I would ever be interested in playing it for, is just all the cool customization options. Like this is the game that got all that press for their like spider sliders, which is such a fun phrase. But like it was for people with arachnophobia, because obviously like the bugs are very large and you are very small, and so it's intended to be a little bit scary in that way. Like the game is bright and colorful and cheerful, but it is a survivor, and there's going to be that like tension. And so they had these amazing customization options where you could like adjust how the spiders looked. And I presume the other insects as well, but the spiders is the thing.
I don't know if it was the other insect. That's a good question.
Yeah, that might be
You'd think like they do that like ants or whatever too, because there's going to be people who have like insect phobias.
I guess maybe spiders is just such a more common thing to be scared of. But what was cool about it wasn't just like, you don't see spiders, or spiders are smaller, or spiders various things. It was really picking apart the different bits of the spider. So you could have like no legs, for example, if it was the skittering that bothered you, or you could change it so that the spiders now don't have all the 8 eyes, because that may be the part when you're fine with the legs. And so just like the like options on that was incredibly cool. But again, like it's a survival game.
yeah. No base building though. That's nice.
No base
that's always
building.
Good.
Yeah,
maybe we'll play it for a night in that case.
Yeah, that's what, it's better. I don't want to have to build my little like cocoon.
Yeah. We should, side note though, we should start like a side project on maybe the extra show where we go like really in depth on an occasional Game Pass exclusive game, where it's just fun. Like we just have a round table on that or something. That'd be cool. Put that one in the back pocket. One of those games that might be interesting to do, and a game that I thought looked really awesome, was Ereban. I don't know how to say it. Ereban Shadow Legacy. It looks like a stealth kind of acrobatics game. You're going around killing robots in this like neo cyberpunk sort of world. Really cool lighting, and there's some interesting looking abilities. Like your character sort of becomes a shadow and goes on the wall, and you have to like move through. You can't go in the light, so you're like going through the wall but avoiding light and jumping off of cliffs. I've seen people comparing it kind of like Assassin's Creed style gameplay, but I think the setting looks really interesting with kind of like anytime there's those mech kind of robots and the cyberpunk kind of stuff, like I'm interested already. I think it looks cool. Diablo 4 after this was some extended gameplay. Are you a Diablo person? Have you played Diablo?
I have played a little bit of, I can't remember if it was Diablo 1 or 2, but I played a little bit of Diablo on this old shitty laptop I had, and I decided to be the druid class, and so my build basically centered around just summoning a bunch of shit. Yeah. But the problem is, by the time I had like 13 ravens and 4 wolves running around beside me and like 27 plants, my laptop would just stop running it.
So
it would just crash.
A really bad class.
So I picked a bad class for a shitty laptop, and I did not get hell of a lot of gameplay in, and I quit. But yeah, I think they're just not really my style of game. Like, they're so popular and they're so cool for like if you're really into build paths and loot and that kind of stuff. But
people that get stuck on that loot treadmill, like, that really get the satisfaction from like finding the mythics and the rares and then upgrading their numbers, and
exactly. And also like just I think they're always really known for having good skill trees and like build customization and stuff, which is cool. But
yeah, this is a game I really hope comes out and has a lot of success, if for nothing other than I just think Diablo is kind of one of those long-standing pillars of like, this is a really old game that still has a lot of success every time it comes out. It's kind of like, I don't want to say like Mario, because it's just in such a different stratosphere, but Diablo is like, one of the long-standing pillars.
It's a classic franchise that is cool that it's still up and running. But they got a lot of controversy, right? Wasn't Diablo the one where it's like, you guys have phones, like that horrible mobile game?
Oh, well, the new mobile game's getting a lot of flack because it's basically like so pay to win in a way that, I mean, most games on, like, there's a lot of games on mobile that are pay to win and have some pretty shady mechanics, but I know the new Diablo game's been getting a ton of flack for that.
Well, and it's also just such a big name, right? And so like you expect better from something like Diablo, but so that even makes it like so much more important that this Diablo 4 does actually come out to great success and kind of, wipe away the bad feeling in your mouth from the you've got phones, don't you, backwash.
Well, it's not even just that though. Like Diablo 3 was controversial because of the way they kind of opened up the class building so you could kind of reallocate your points a lot easier and whatnot. And I think people didn't like that because coming from Diablo 2, it was a lot more like, I'm intentionally building my character.
Right.
And there was debate because I think hardcore Diablo people preferred that way. Whereas like for me, I played Diablo 3. I thought it was all right. And I appreciated the fact I could reallocate because I didn't know what I was doing. And nothing sucks more than getting 30 levels in, realizing, I made my character wrong. And then being like, well, guess I got to restart. Anyway, Diablo 4, got good hopes for that. It'd be fun. And especially being on Game Pass, you can instantly find so many people to play with. Sea of Thieves Season 7 was next, which is more pirate stuff. There was some more pirate kind of singing and things, so that's nice.
Good for them.
They had the shanties, that's for sure. After that, Ravenlock was next, which is coming out. It's inspired by fairy tales, right? I'm struggling to remember what this one was too.
Yeah, me too.
There's a lot of stuff shown in this show.
I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh man, I hope I wasn't getting this mixed up with Flintlock.
No, it's kind of got that. Yeah, I'm just looking at it now. Oh boy, we're really struggling. She's going into a mirror. I don't remember this. Everyone, what's Ravenlock? Well, this video loads. Let's talk about the next game, which is Cocoon. Okay. Because Cocoon looks
this one
awesome.
I absolutely do remember. So this is Inside and Limbo developers. I think published by Annapurna, which I know. This was like, you told me after you watched the show that you were excited for me and you were like so glad they showed Silk Song and you were like, this is a K game. I'm so happy for her. This was my reaction for Cocoon for you.
Yes. One thing to shout out for Cocoon, is there ever been a better font choice for any game other than the lettering of Cocoon?
It is so clean.
It's so clean and like that 3D kind of look. But yeah, I can't wait to play this. These are the kind of games where it's like Limbo, especially I think Inside was something I enjoyed even more than Limbo. But just those games, they're so creative in such a creepy way, and they play with like they're side scrollers, but they play with perspective in such an interesting way. And this game looks cool too, because I think it's not completely side scrolling. It's more of like an isometric sort of top down sort of view that you have. And so this is really something different for them as a studio. And I have faith they're going to pull it off, but it's definitely going to be different. And it doesn't seem to be as horror focused this time either. It seems a lot more like bright compared to what they've made.
So the synopsis still does call it a dark side-scrolling action puzzle game. So I think there's definitely going to be some elements where it's eerie or at the very least atmospheric.
Which it's going to be creepy. The's no doubt about it. But it just like color palette wise, it's got a lot more going on. I mean, the other games were black and white.
Yeah, they're literally Limbo's literally just different gradients of shadow. But yeah, I this will be one we talk about because I'm excited to play Cocoon. Limbo was a game I really enjoyed and kind of like got me into indie games. I think Limbo was like a gateway drug for a lot of people. And I haven't played Inside, but it's been an intention of mine for a long time. So we will definitely both talk about Cocoon, because I started out this trailer like, yes, this can be great for James, and then I went into like, oh shit, I want to play this, and like, you know, he's a cute little character, he goes in his cocoon, he's sort of like, there seems to be a lot of like puzzles about verticality, which is interesting.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we'll talk extensively about that when it comes out. I have brought up the trailer for Ravenlock here, so we're gonna watch this live together, everybody, and see what it is. Okay. I don't know. Maybe we checked out during this part of the show.
Dude, there's like a kid in a barn. How if like
she's a kid? She's going in a mirror now. They say it's based off of fairy tales. We're investigating live, everybody.
Dude, I don't know how we didn't watch this together,
no,
so
didn't.
Collectively we both just totally missed this trailer.
So funny.
What the heck was before
We're so professional.
It was Sea of Thieves. I guess we just
checked out. I checked out for Sea of Thieves. So.
You know, Sea of Thieves comes on, you gotta get up and go grab a drink. Is clearly what happened.
Hey, listen, this game's actually looking pretty cool. It's got like a skill tree. You're going through fairy tale. Like it looks like a girl gets sucked into a fairy tale land, basically.
Yeah, there's bright and colorful monsters. I will say the combat doesn't look hella engaging.
Not.
But like, you know, if the world is fun to explore and there's good puzzles, then the combat doesn't have to be the star of the show every single time.
You know, a game based on fairy tales too, the writing could be great because we all know there's some very quirky characters in you know, those type of stories. We're getting near the end of the show, everybody. The next one up was from Team Ninja, which is exciting to see that name show up. I think they were bought by Xbox as well, right? So this is Wolong Fallen Dynasty. Man, another violent kind of game with a lot of people burning buildings and all this stuff. The combat looks pretty cool, although, I mean, it just kind of looks like I don't see anything that really stands out to me in terms of like, I mean, I guess this guy's cool with the beard, right? Like he's a cool character.
I mean, this trailer got me hyped because when it first showed,
it looks like Sekiro.
Well, I thought it was
Nier.
Yeah.
Neo, yeah.
Not Nier. Neo, because Team Ninja made Neo. So they've clearly poured, you know, or at least they've used what they've learned in that game here. Yeah. It looks like another similar kind of like Japanese-inspired action RPG. And I'm all on board for it. If it's taking anything from Neo, taking anything from Sekiro, like...
Well, that's what I was thinking.
It could be a pretty heavy hitter for me, and I'm definitely going to keep my eye on it.
That's what I was thinking. The only problem with a game like that, again, is it's going to be compared to the Kings, Sekiro and the Souls and all that stuff. So if it doesn't hold up, I mean...
Exactly, but here's the thing. Once you've beaten those games, a good solid high B or like A tier game, it's got to fill the void for the next FromSoft to come out.
That's
so
right,
it's
that's
fine.
Right. All right, everybody, now I need everyone here to take a deep breath. We're all going to close our eyes and count to 3. And we're going to imagine to ourselves, what's kind of the thing that's always missing on Xbox? You know, they're always saying, you know, we have so many games, we have everything for everybody. Everyone's so happy to have an Xbox. But you know who's really missing out on Xbox? It's JRPG fans. There's not always a lot of JRPGs on the Xbox. And say what you want about that, whether or not you like them, but that's true. But have no fear, everybody, because something that made me so happy.
Yeah.
And I mean, I played these games except for one of them, but it was announced that not only was Persona 3 Portable coming to Game Pass, but also was Persona 4 Golden. But not only that, so is Persona 5 The Royal, all coming to Game Pass. They're not coming all at once, unfortunately. I think The Royal's coming in October, and it'll be the first one released, which for me is unfortunate because P3 Portable is the one I've not played.
Right.
And I'm definitely looking forward to playing that when it comes out. But praise be to all of you Xbox owners. And let me just say, please for anyone that has not tried these games, if you've been like a lifelong Xbox person, first of all, it's interesting you're listening to our PlayStation podcast.
I mean, we hype Game Pass a lot.
We hype Game Pass a lot, but goddamn, these games are amazing. Please play them, and like, oh man, I just am so happy they're finally on a different platform.
I'm gonna toss my hat in the ring for this one too and say I don't usually like JRPGs. I'm not a JRPG fan. They're too long, they're too grindy. Sometimes, the combat doesn't really tickle my fancy. But I will say that Persona 5 was 120 hours of joy for me. Yeah. And I'm considering playing Royal, even though I played through the original and it's like largely the same game for decent chunks of it. Like, I just fell in love with Persona 5 and holy fuck, this is your chance to just try something new. You don't have to go play Final Fantasy afterwards. Yeah. You don't have to go kill Chaos on whatever new game Square is making. But you can play Persona 5 and just give Ryuji a hug for me.
Yeah, do it. So after that this is a really interesting part of the show actually, because following up with Persona, we had another huge announcement, which is that Kojima, everyone's favorite, game director, is partnering with Xbox for his next game, and he's going to be using, I guess, Microsoft's like extensive cloud technology, whatever that really means. But I mean, he made Death Stranding, and that was like a Strand game, so maybe he's going to be using this technology to do an even crazier thing. Who knows? But this is the only thing as well that was shown, and there wasn't even a game shown.
No.
He just showed up and he's like, hey guys, I'm Kojima. I'm making a like Xbox.
Yeah, and this was way cooler than when The Rock showed up at Games Fest, and he was like, oh, I've just been working out. Like, I'm in a movie. Yeah. This was actually like kind of exciting.
Yeah, no, it was. And I mean, there's some rumors, I guess, about what game Kojima is making. I guess it's called Overdose, starring Margaret Qualley. And off the top of my head, I'm just reading this. I don't know who that is. But I guess there's some rumors about his game. I have heard that. Either way, cool to see him with Xbox. I mean, it's just one of those things. I think after the show too, I read that he put out a statement saying like, "Don't worry, PlayStation. I still like you, and like I'm gonna make games for you too, because of course this is the kind of thing that's gonna cause like a bunch of people on the internet to be, haha, Kojima's leaving PlayStation. PlayStation sucks. Yeah. Ha ha ha." And really, let's just enjoy the games, everybody.
Yeah, and honestly, it's in everyone's best interest it comes out in more places, so...
Exactly.
Exactly.
And so that appearance by Kojima brings us to the end of the Xbox Showcase, which was the announcement of Starfield, which, of course, is the big new game from Bethesda. Todd Howard himself, with his leather jacket, came out on the stage.
And his leather shoes,
And he showed off Starfield, which, man, this game looks ambitious, I will say. Now, it looked fairly polished, I would say, for a Bethesda game, which means it's never going to play this smoothly when it first comes out. But I mean, there's a lot in this game, right? Like, there's base building, there's ship flying, there is, like, over 1,000 planets to explore. Your ship customization affects how it flies. You have your whole, like, interconnected system of storylines when you're off of your ship. You're obviously going around and visiting all these different solar systems. Like, it just looks like the most ambitious thing ever. But I mean, yeah.
They've put the time in to develop it. Like, think about how many times Skyrim has come out in the last 10 years. Yeah. And, like, some of that time they've been working on Starfield.
Yeah, you think? Yeah. But that's the question. Which of these is more? The amount of planets in Starfield or the amount of systems available to play Skyrim on?
It's not as far as you would think.
It's not.
But you know what? This game actually looks cool. Like, we always say I'm not the space kind of person, but like, honestly, like, this game genuinely looks like it's gonna blow people away, and I'm so excited for it because I know this is a big deal to a lot of people, and like, while I am not as into Bethesda as I used to be, like, Oblivion and Skyrim were huge games for me back in the day. And I want Starfield to be that for someone else, because even though Bethesda gets, ragged on a lot, like, they are always at the forefront with this kind of game and, like, doing so much innovation with NPCs and their potential. And I remember, like, Oblivion came out and it was, like, absolutely insane that the NPCs had, like, actual routines they followed. Like, the farmers would work during the day and then go home at night, and like city guards would have real patrols around the city, and like, the merchants would work their stalls and then they'd leave, and like, it is so cool, the kind of stuff that they come up with just to make their worlds feel like lived in and real.
Yeah, right. And I remember even like one of the things that I think the thing that impressed me the most is like the level of character customization that they saw in this, And like there was things like, I know they always have some kind of in-depth backstories for these games, like, oh, you know, were you born in the swamps or were you born in the kingdom or like whatever, right?
Get out of my
and your
swamp.
backstory has some things that affect you, but it just seemed like there was an extra layer of depth. Like I remember one of the things they showed in this trailer was that you can be like, you can own property or something in the game, but if you choose to start with that, then you start with like a mortgage you have to pay off or something. And that's like so interesting to me that they would give you that, because then I guess you could go visit your property or something when you go out into one of the many planets. And I mean, that's interesting. Like, what do you think of the fact that there's 1,000 planets, quote unquote? And because I think that's like detrimental to a certain extent where it's like, man, the story of this game's already going to be like long as fuck. How are you going to explore like all these planets? But then at the same time, it's the kind of game where like people get lost in these Bethesda games, and there's probably a huge segment of people that play them that are like, I can't wait to go and explore this entire world and put it all together.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Let's put it this way. Like I said, like I'm not super into these. I am into these games, but like I would never say like Skyrim is one of my favorite games now. But Skyrim is still like the game I played the third most amount of time in, or something outrageous like that. Like they are huge. Like people spend forever in these games and like playing them over and over again and role playing different kinds of characters. And like when you first get lost in one of these worlds, it is magical. And again, they do kind of like a good sort of system where it's really like open, do whatever you want, go explore, like have your own journey. No two games are ever going to look the exact same. And I think like, you know, 1,000's outrageous, and like the amount of time you'd probably have to spend in this game to like quote unquote 100% complete it, just, you know, can it even be done in a lifetime?
Probably not, honestly.
But like, you know, it depends how big planets are, what the scope is of them, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, some of them are probably going to be just small rocks where you can like go and harvest some material or something to build your ship.
Yeah,
there's going to be a lot of
there's a Nern root hidden on there. A little Oblivion joke for you guys.
Oh, I don't get it. That's very funny. Ha 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 ha.
But honestly, this looks so good. It looks like they knocked it out of the park. And the other thing that surprised me about the trailer, because I always found one of the things I wasn't super into in the Bethesda games, and Fallout especially, is the combat. Yeah. It's very like, it's very stiff, minimal. Right? It's very stiff.
Well, that's the whole reason they put the VAT system in it, was because they're like, people aren't going to be able to shoot these guns properly. We got to give them this way to shoot people.
Exactly. And so like, the VAT system was kind of neat, but Fallout's really whatever. And like, that's not the reason you play these games, right? You play it for the role play, the story, the world, and the combat's just like, you know, something you kind of do in that world. But this actually looked like the gunplay looked pretty fun. And so it's cool to see that they've kind of made that like not just something you do in the game, but kind of a draw to play as well.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting, because there's so many different facets of this game, and I just wonder like how many of them, between the base building, the ships, the exploring, the story, the gunplay, like how many of those are actually gonna be of the quality of like the best in class currently of those type of games, or is it going to be like it's pretty good at all of them and you just have this huge expansive experience?
From my experience with Bethesda's studio in the past, it's usually like the game is greater than the sum of all its parts. Aside from the writing is usually fantastic. There was a good writing, there was a great voice actors, aside from that one lady that like she does like multiple things. I don't know if you've seen it.
No, I haven't.
Oh my god, okay, we're gonna post a link to it at the bottom of the show, but there's like a lady and she's like reading her lines for the like the script, and they obviously just like didn't notice it. She's like, she reads it, she's like, oh, hang on, I'm gonna try that again, and then she reads it a second time, and that whole clip like made it in.
Really? Oh,
line.
You have to show me. Okay, we'll link it. It's so funny. We'll link it.
But like that's the thing, like they've got bugs and stuff, but like how fucking ambitious are these games? Like of course they have bugs and stuff.
so hilarious.
But like yeah, the quality, like I think why Fallout 76 was hated so much when it came out is that Bethesda never half-asses anything, right? Yeah. Like there's so much passion in these games. Like they take years and years to make because they cram so much stuff in it, and like you don't get to the late game and you're like, oh, it's not finished, and like they clearly ran out of time. Like they are so well realized, and so Starfield looks like, you know, it looks, at least from this trailer, that it's gonna have that same kind of quality brought to the table, and like, yeah, man, I'm not gonna play it, but it looks fucking cool.
Well, I'm gonna give it a try. I mean, it's Game Pass. Like, why would I not? If I'm gonna try it for 10 hours, and if I don't like it, then that's all it is, right?
It's just the time. Like, I know if I was to play it would be like 200 hours.
Well, I'm not going in thinking I'm gonna finish it, but yeah, we'll see. So that was the showcase. Overall, like we said, strong show. So it was very long though, and something that moves very quickly. A summer game's done quick.
Fucking nailed it.
which is our last story of the day. I just wanted to remind everybody that SGDQ is starting up, and I mean, speedruns are amazing. I'm not a huge, like, I don't watch everything, you know, don't get into it all the time, but just checking in on SGDQ, I would encourage anyone that's not checked in before to just stop by and you know, find a time when they're playing a game you know very well, and just watch it a little bit, because the way some of these people can play the games that you think you're good at
you're not
is fucking incredible.
Yeah, if you want a humbling experience.
Yeah, it's nuts. So as on the article here, I'm just reading from The Verge. They're doing a Shadow of the Colossus randomized boss rush, which apparently can be done in 47 minutes. That's pretty amazing. I think it probably took me 47 minutes to beat my first boss when I played that game, trying to figure out what I was doing. They're also doing a Tunic run, which apparently is 40 minutes. And on July 2nd, Kate, of note to you, they're finishing off with an Elden Ring speedrun to finish the show.
Oh boy, can I beat Elden Ring by then? Likely no, but I can watch almost all of it because I'm getting close. Gotta do it one day.
We'll do an Elden Ring check-in soon, but
yeah,
go and watch SGGQ if you can. Of course, if you also have the will or the, you know, ability to donate. They raise a lot of money for Doctors Without Borders. I think last year it says they raised $3.4 million to on cancer research. So it's just a great great cause, and they do a good job of you know, making it count on the charity side as well. So that's going to be the show for today, other than just to mention there is always a funny little article we end the show with here on the news show, and that is, maybe it's not so funny this time, but it's just damn, this is just fucking cool. So a little while ago, a band called 21 Pilots did a concert, and I guess for no reason other than that they were in high school and grew up as Halo fans, they decided they were just gonna bust out like the main theme of Halo 3 at their concert. And you know, I'm not gonna play it here for you all, it's copyright infringements, but maybe I'll link this down below too, because if you're a Halo person, like, it's just cool to see a band do that. Like, how cool would it be to go to a concert and you just are listening, they're just kind of jamming, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, that's the theme from like God of War or something. Like, that'd be fucking cool.
That would be so cool. Like, I would not necessarily have been at that show, but like, if 21 Pilots comes here now, it's like, ooh, maybe I'm buying a ticket.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, that is just cool and unexpected, and like, just would be such a fun moment for those Halo fans who happen to be in the crowd that night.
Well, exactly, and for people on the internet later too. Imagine like Metallica, they're like, oh, this, even if I wasn't there, like if it came out yesterday that Metallica did a show and they covered like a song from,
you know, Metallica's always playing Pokemon. You know, they've always.
Oh my god, that would be amazing, wouldn't it?
That's right. They always got some Pokemon themes going
That would be incredible. Oh man, all right. Well, you know what? This got a lot less awkward as we continued on. It was good. This room is getting really hot though. We're crammed into
it's 30-degree June day over here.
Yeah,
so.
It's hot. No air conditioning. Too loud to record with that on. So I guess we're gonna get on out of here. Thank you all for joining us for the news show. This has been a blast. Obviously, going over the big game showcase is always a good time. If you want to get in touch with us, you can do so at circlesandsquarespod@gmail.com with all your listener mail, questions, and comments. Write in, let us know, what was your favorite highlight from the Bethesda Showcase? Are you going to play through all 1,000 planets of...
And if not, how many planets do you intend on playing?
Exactly.
I'd just 47 if I was to go
47.
for it. 47.
I'll play 69 planets.
Nice.
All right. So feel free to write in there, of course. You can also get in touch with us on Twitter at CNSPod. Of course, the links are all below, as well as the link to that script reading that Kate's going to show me.
Funny.
So write in and tell us how you liked that as well. But until next time, we'll see you next week with the games we've been playing on our regular show. And everyone be safe. Take care of yourselves. We'll see you soon. All right.
Awesome.